I'm Melanie Johnson, along with my co-host Jenn Foster. We are both 13-time best-selling authors. We've published over 2,500 books and made all of our authors #1 bestsellers. We own Elite Online Publishing. If you want to become a best-selling author, look us up at eliteonlinepublishing.com. Now, welcome to the podcast that shares secrets from top industry experts that show you how to get lasting success and results. This is the Elite Expert Insider Podcast. Hey everyone, it's Melanie Johnson. Oh my gosh, it's just a beautiful day. I hope you're having a beautiful day no matter where you are in the world listening to us, and make it a fantastic day. And Jenn, how are you doing?
I'm doing great. It is a beautiful day. Whether it's cold or hot, I'm just having a beautiful day. It's sunshiny and I'm excited for today.
Yeah, I always tell people you got to make your own sunshine. If it's cloudy outside, make your own sunshine. And you know what? I want to say make your own economy too. We're going to talk about the economy today. All right, we've been through COVID. Businesses have shut down. Businesses are trying to pivot and do all that. And I keep reading the economy is going to crash. Get your money out of the stock market. There's cryptocurrency. There's NFT. There's silver. There's gold. Oh my gosh, I'm just so freaking confused. Where should I put my money and where's the economy going, for Pete's sakes? So today we have an expert. He's written books on it. He has a podcast on it. We are talking to David Morgan, and he's going to get us straightened out and give us a direction to feel confident about where the economy is going and maybe understand some of this, all this new stuff that's out there. David, thanks for coming. Welcome.
Melanie, thanks for having me. Hi, Jen.
Hi. Well, David, tell us a little bit about yourself, how you got into the finance world.
You know, it's one of those things, I guess sometimes people think they're born with something or a destiny. I'd say that's kind of close to the truth. I was fascinated by money as a young kid. I don't know why. I got the idea that I suppose many of us get later in life that if you have enough of that stuff, you have more freedom. So in other words, if you have enough money, you don't have to work, or you work on what you want to work on, not necessarily working or laboring for somebody else. And I just saw money tied to freedom. And I thought, well, and then I thought, well, where does it come from? I mean, these big businesses make money, and you know, the shop owner down there, how did they buy a store? And all those questions were running in my head at like 6, 7, 8 years of age. And like, how does it start? Where does it come from? How do you get a house? How do you get a business? How do you get a great, big, huge building like that? Who builds a church? Who puts up the money for that? All that stuff was running in my head. So I basically was just a heat-seeking missile on it. And then when I was 11 years old, the coinage changed from silver, 90% silver coins into what I call Johnson slugs. And that kind of set me back for a bit and said, geez, that's really interesting. These can't be worth the same, but none of the adults seem to be taking any notice of it. So as time went on, I became very, very interested in finance. And that was the direction I really wanted to go. But my dad kind of pushed me in a different direction, which I had a very successful aircraft career. I was actually a crew member on some of the more interesting both white and black programs. But regardless of all that, I still was very interested in following the financial markets basically on a daily basis. And almost anything I read is nonfiction dealing with the economy, physical economy, monetary history, collapse of empires, and that type of thing. So it's something that's in me. I got to let it out, as I say.
Well, speaking of history, you know, history has a way of repeating itself. And they say if you studied economic history, that you're going to see trends. You're going to see typically every, 7 years, I think it is, that the economy hits a dip or after it's come up. So what do you think? Where are we? I mean, we've had a crisis. I was watching something on TV. They were showing the polio epidemic when we had polio. And so the country and the world has had these things before. Where do you see us going as a country and the world in the economy over the next 12 to 18 months?
Well, at the risk of never being invited back on the show, you're right. There are cycles, and there's cycles within cycles, and there's like short-term cycles, mid-term cycles, long-term cycles, and super cycles. And for my study, we're in like a super cycle. We are at an event that only occurs about once every 350 years. And during that event, we have a major reset in the whole financial/money system. And I really think that's where we are. There's never been a case of study through all of recorded history where a fiat currency hasn't failed. But we've never had the amount of tie to one currency worldwide with the population we have that we now see. So we've got basically over 7 billion people on the planet that are more or less tied to the US dollar. So as the dollar goes, so goes humanity, in a way, as a metaphor. There's a difference between the financial economy, what you see on the stock exchanges, what you see in the bond market, and the physical economy. There used to be a pretty good correspondence. If you saw a strong stock market, it really indicated a strong physical economy. That's not true anymore. So I don't see the end of the world. I don't see everything going away. I don't see everything burning to the ground. I don't see any of that stuff. What happens in a financial reset is the ownership changes. People that are over leveraged in debt that can't pay it have to mark down to the market price what that apartment building is, what that auto dealership is, what that grocery store is, what that wheat field is, and that type of thing. So during the reset, we'll see a huge change of ownership, and we'll probably also see a new system. And the banks are very clear what they want is a central bank digital currency. It's not a DeFi, decentralized finance. It's more centralized finance. So there's kind of this war going on right now. And this happens at the end of all great inflations, where people seek things like NFT or crypto or silver and gold or anything that's outside of the mainstream, because of the mainstream is failing them and they know it's failing them. So there's this big push into Bitcoin or some alternative asset that they believe is scarce and will preserve their wealth as the system works through and dies off the old system and a new one arises.
Wait, do you really believe that something could happen to the dollar since everything is so tied to that? I mean, it's worldwide currency, that the dollar could go away and something else could take its place, whether it's crypto or.
Yeah, I do. I mean, if you look at history, the 1913 dollars worth 100 cents. And if you ask the Federal Reserve Board, which I think is a .gov address, but regardless, they'll tell you that 1913 dollars worth 2.5 cents. So if your son came back in the 6th grade and there was a quiz was out of 100 and you got a 2.5 out of 100, you'd probably say it was a miserable failure. And that's where the dollar is, when their mandate is to provide a stable monetary system. I mean, that's their mandate. And so they've got a 98% failure. It's certainly anything but. So we're really arguing about, well, would the last 2.5 cents be there or not? And the answer is probably at least half of it. But, all these currencies that fail doesn't mean absolute zero. And that's where I have a hard time conveying what I really mean, because people hear the words and they think it means it's absolutely worthless. No, there's a reset before it's absolutely worthless. And to repeat myself slightly, that's why you see all these alternatives coming up. A Bitcoin isn't a dollar. Silver coin isn't a dollar, but they're stores of wealth. They're scarce, they're valuable, and they've traded, in the case of the metals, for a very long time. So is that a dollar? No. But could it be exchanged for a dollar? Yes. It could be exchanged for a quote unquote dollar at any time. So, but yeah, the reset I do think will happen. And will the dollar go away? I would say no, not exactly. It will be digitized, put in a new format, tied to a new system. So is it going to disappear? No, but it will be revalued and moved into, let's say, a different platform. And in some cases, it'll be transparent. I mean, you might go from a dollar to a Fed coin. The exchange could be 1-to-1. And for most of the, excuse my arrogance, but the sleepy populace, as long as their debit card works, they really don't notice much difference.
Yeah, I think it's interesting what you're saying. And I think, like you said, if people that don't really know what's going on will just continue thinking the way they think, but they have to realize that there's other eggs, there's other baskets, and you can invest in these. So, tell us a little bit about, where things are going and what people should we be buying up silver? Should we be buying up gold? Should we be looking at all the different cryptocurrencies, a particular one?
Yeah, well, I mean, my specialty is monetary history and precious metals, and of course, the resource sector or commodity sector at large is stuff we need. So we're shifting from these cycles that go back and forth. We go from stuff we want to stuff we need, stuff we want to stuff we need, and I put stuff we want in the financials because they're basically digital ideas of wealth. A bond is really just a concept. You loan money and you get an interest rate on it. But regardless of all that, we're going back into the cycle of things we need. So the commodity cycle is a good place to be, but it's really hard to do it. So there are equities that perform well in a commodity cycle. I was asked about my worry about food. And it's not my specialty, but I am a good stock picker. So for my, subscribers, I said ADM, and I forget, I think I recommend around 35, and I know it dipped because there was some financial conundrum that we see quite often these days, and it dropped. But I just checked it yesterday, it's at 53. So, I mean, it's probably keeping up with real food prices for everybody if you want that kind of a hedge. But I'm hedge. I'm a specialty that says 10% of your portfolio goes here, 20% at the most. The other 80%, talk to your financial planner, your wealth advisor, or your real estate agent, whatever. I specialize in that part of the portfolio that has relatively higher risk, but huge reward to the upside, that in the event of what I'm talking about does take place in your lifetime, or maybe your children's lifetime, you're hedged so you come out wealth intact, or maybe even a little wealthier. But you don't put all your eggs in the sector that I specialize in. And I can't emphasize that enough, because people get the story, they hear it, they feel my passion, they think, oh, I got to go all in. No, you don't go all in. You go in the right amount. It's like vitamins. You only take enough vitamin A, D, C, B, that keep you healthy. You don't like take the whole bottle.
All right, so hedge means, let's go through things. Cannabis. I had three other minds on my mind. Real estate, is it time? Like, I thought that the real estate market was just going to tank. I mean, I just thought everyone's not paying their mortgage, renters aren't paying their rent, so people can't pay their mortgage if they have a rental property. And I just kept saying, just wait, properties are going to go down. But now lumber's up like 600%, steel's up 25 or 30%, labor's gone up. So are you saying, I mean, should you hedge and invest in real estate or things like that? What else do you think? What's on your top list of the hedge?
Well, I think cash is a good place to be until things straighten out. And I think you're right about real estate longer term. I mean, commercial real estate is going to come down en masse. I mean, a lot of these shopping malls are going to be ghost towns. In fact, the one by me right now is. I think there's probably 1 out of 5 or 6 storefronts that are actually occupied in that huge mall. And some of the cornerstones have left. So that's definitely true. And there's a time delay between the stop payment of mortgage and the mortgage moratoriums and stuff that's going on, this forbearance, and the actual change in real estate prices. Plus, there's a big flex moving out of cities and into rural properties that's pushing up prices from city properties into country properties. But that won't last much longer, in my studied opinion, because as real estate starts to be decimated, let's say in Los Angeles, California, and that little house that was 800 square feet that was worth 1.2 million is repriced 6 months at 600,000, then that person that moves to Idaho could still afford something very nice for that kind of money, but not as good as it was, let's say, 6 months previous. And then as time goes on, a lot of the houses have been bid up in rural areas, and they'll start to kind of plateau as well. So big shifts going on. You always see it at the end of these huge super cycles. Lots of things to be concerned with, but not overly concerned. The human spirit's, indescribable. I mean, we get through stuff. In fact, and a lot of times it actually sharpens us, makes us better. And I'm very fond of saying the revaluation will be a revaluation, meaning we'll look back to where our values are, and maybe where, especially my generation, they've been misplaced, where, during this illness, I mean, the value that I place on interpersonal relationships are much higher than ever before, because before I could, call up and be, of course I'll have coffee with you, or I'll meet you for lunch or whatever. Well, I took it for granted. Now I don't. When I have that personal relationship, I really feel a much bigger heart connection than I had in the past. So there's a lot of stuff going on at these super cycles that are not only monetary, they run much, much deeper.
Yeah, I love that you build that up, because there's so many different currencies out there, and not very many people talk about the relationship currency, because that is a currency. There's a value put on it. So I love that you talked about that. That's great.
Yeah. And what is your opinion of, all right, stock market, stay in, stay out? Like you said, cash position is very important right now. Should people be thinking about liquidating some of their portfolio just to be in a more cash position?
You could. I'm a big proponent of the market knows more than me. So I have certain trading techniques, and it's like never argue with the Fed. It's like never argue with the market.
Yeah.
So if I was all in, or had, all I plan to invest in, let's say the stock market represented by the S&P 500, and it hit a certain level, and then it moved below that level, and it stayed
Yeah.
below that level for a certain amount of time, let's say on a weekly chart or a monthly chart. I'm not a day trader. It's ridiculous to spend that much. I mean, you can do it, but so if I had a long-term basis where the weekly or the monthly showed me a definite degradation in the stock market, I just get out. Now, would I get out entirely? Being a stock picker like I am, probably not, but I'd certainly lighten up. The bond market's what scares me the most, though, because this debt can't be repaid. So people really don't. I know the bond traders are usually the smartest guys there are, but it's all electronic now. I'm not sure all the bond traders now are that smart. And that's my take, my opinion, because most of it is algorithms competing against each other for a yield. And they know that these bonds are long-term worth less, which means interest rates are going to be forced higher, even as much as the Fed likes to control the interest rates and the money center banks that issue them like to control them. The market has more power than they do. So we are going to see interest rates come up, and it depends how high they move to how much the bond prices decrease in value. So it's sort of it's actually a balancing mechanism. It's really designed that way. And so I am concerned about the debt markets a great deal. We can't pay it back. Nobody in the world can. Something's got to give. What do we do? How do you get out of it? Do you hyperinflate it away where the currency becomes worthless? If that's the case, then why would you own a 2-year note or a 7-year or a 10-year or even a 30-year? If you don't want $1 today, why would you want one 7 years from now? So there's a lot going on in the bond market that does concern me and always has. In fact, the last page of the Silver Manifesto, the back cover, I should say, not last page, the back cover, talks about the debt bomb. I mean, I could have talked about silver, but I chose to talk about the debt because that's far more important to everybody's financial well-being than the silver market is.
Great information. So that was awesome. Tell us where we can find you and get more information.
Yeah, I have an opt-in free newsletter. I do podcasts every week by myself, and I have guests on my podcast from time to time as well. I'll take questions. So just go to themorganreport.com and sign up for the free letter. That's themorganreport.com. Sign up for the free newsletter. And if you want to keep your anonymity, go ahead. Just pull down the blog feature on the main page, and all the stuff I do is pretty much on the blog, and all the social media is at the very top. Twitter feed, YouTube feed, Facebook, LinkedIn, everything that I have is up at the top of the blog page.
Awesome. We'll put that link up at the bottom of the YouTube video and in the show notes for those who are listening. You can check that out on your favorite listening app.
All right, well, we'll see you next time. And if you're looking to write a book and become a #1 bestseller, we guarantee it when you work with us. And on top of that, we show you how to use your book as a marketing and advertising tool to leverage it for your business. So we'll see you next time right here. Talk to you soon.
Bye.
Hey, are you looking to increase your revenue, build credibility, and elevate your brand? This podcast is brought to you by Elite Online Publishing, an innovative publishing and full spectrum marketing company. They will publish and market your book to make it a #1 bestseller. Becoming an author is the best way to market your business. So contact them at eliteonlinepublishing.com today. All of their authors become #1 bestsellers.